Run it back and then sit back. That is the early philosophy in free agency for the Houston Texans. Landry Locker, the king of the offseason, Cody Stoots, here with you, reacting to what the Texans have done, which a lot and then not much, depending on how you look at it. What they've done early on in free agency. I'll just let you start, Cody. The day that was in which they run it back with two guys, and then they're kind of sitting back and letting everybody else pay a lot for free agents as the actual process of free agency begins.
It's funny because a lot of the guys that they decide to bring back, I feel like probably aren't getting the money that they got if they hit that open market. And then they get Ed Ingram on a deal, and it's like, well, I feel like they actually saved a couple bucks. It's like if he hit open free agency, maybe he gets a few dollars more, but they just kind of wash those savings away when Sheldon Rankins gets $17 million over 2 years, or EJ Speed's getting the money that he's getting. So yeah, the moves today, we thought that they would bring back Sheldon Rankins. Or at least I thought they would. I didn't know if it's going to be a 2-year commitment. The 2-year commitment seems a little much. It feels like he's the type of guy that should be in a 1-year commitment situation. But they have him for a year plus now with the $12 million guarantee and a little bit more on the actual contract. It's fine. Could you have done something else at that spot with a different body? Probably could have. And then Ed Ingram, they're betting on that the best year of his football career, he's going to be even better the following season, sticking with the team, sticking with the coaching staff, sticking with the offense, and being with the team. And it's a pretty hefty bet, but it's one that they seemed willing to take. I don't know that I would have taken that, but it wasn't as expensive as I thought it was going to be to keep Ed Ingram, but it still wasn't cheap at all either. So,
yeah, the Ed Ingram deal, I think was I think that was a good deal. I honestly, like the price that they ended up paying for Ed Ingram, which happened at 4 a.m. 13 mil a year, with what he would have gotten on the market, a guy who's in his 20s, who's just heading into his fifth season. I think that made sense. Now, you wondered, like, if Ed Ingram hits the market and he gets closer to 20 million or something like that, because teams are just throwing away money for interior offensive linemen. I thought the 13 million was fine. I thought the price was fine on Ed Ingram. Really no issue with that. And quite frankly, if he continues to improve and Ed Ingram is just a serviceable right guard that you don't have to worry about, awesome. Like, awesome. Good job. And the tire kick was good. And ironically, you're talking about a guy who was selected in the same draft as Kenyon Green. And this is almost like a rollover and make right with the Kenyon Green experiment. I think he was 55 overall, and Kenyon Green was, what did he end up being, 13, 14, something like that?
Like 14th, 15th overall, something like that.
15th, yeah, 15th, whatever it ended up being. So I thought the Ingram deal was actually good. Especially when you see what these other offensive linemen were getting. So I had no issue with the Ingram deal.
And I know it says 3 years. It's really just a 2-year, $24 million deal. And because if he doesn't play well, you get out of that third year for, next to nothing. And if he does play well, it's like you said, you get a little bit of a bargain, because a guy who is an ascending guard that hits true free agency probably gets a little bit more than what Ed Ingram got. He's probably checking in at $15, $16 million in average annual value. So, a rare value save in a contract negotiation that actually shows up for the Texans.
Yeah. I'll give a really good solid B+ for the Ingram deal. And when you factor in that it's a guy that you actually kicked the tires on, and then you got the best ball of his career with, I think that they deserve some credit on that with Ed Ingram. And look on the bright side, if you have 2 out of 3 years guaranteed, if you're Ed Ingram, just be bad in year 1 and then good in year 2, and you might get an extra extension on top of the year that you already have left. So you might get the Dalton Schultz treatment if you are Ed Ingram. I couldn't help myself. Then we have the Sheldon Rankins deal, which, look, man, I said heading into this that the Texans had to fill, just to be able to fill a lineup card, a starting lineup. They needed a right guard, they needed a left guard, and they needed a DT.
Mm-hmm.
So 2 out of those 3 spots they fill. The Sheldon Rankins thing is kind of interesting. I think he's going to be 32 years old in April, if I'm not mistaken. And he gets 2 years with $17 million. I've seen different numbers, but I think it's $12.5 million for Sheldon Rankins.
Yeah, Texans cap had the numbers 2 years, 17 million, 12.5 guaranteed.
So there you go. So that's an interesting that's a very interesting number for Sheldon Rankins.
And 12.5 is about what he was supposed to get or going to get if the Texans have been able to re-sign 12.5 a year. Obviously, he's not getting that, but that's his guaranteed money. It's not going to surprise me if a year from now this turns into a 1 year, $12.5 million deal because it doesn't work out. That's not going to be surprising to me.
Which is a lot.
Which is a lot for a guy that made $5.5 million last year.
Yes, it's a heck of a lot for sure. I don't think the dog likes the Sheldon Rankins deal. So you keep 2 of your own. Left guard is the clear glaring need right now. And then they signed Dominic Robinson. And I'll be honest, I don't know anything about Dominic Robinson. I know 3 things. Number 1, he rocks the Guardian cap like Jalen Petrie. Number 2, against D'Amico Ryans and the 49ers in his debut in 2022, he had a sack and a half, 1.5 of his career 3.5 sacks. So maybe D'Amico Ryans fell in love with him there. And they also kind of have the benefit of the doubt when it comes to D linemen. So there's not just 100% pessimism there.
Yeah, Dominic Robinson is hopefully new Derek Barnett. You know, it's up to $4 million. And you got to hope he's more Derek Barnett than Darrell Taylor. Remember Darrell Taylor's addition a year ago? It's like, oh, well, he actually had some sacks. He actually had some numbers at the places that he's played. And he wasn't worth a hoot and couldn't get on the field. And they cut him before, he really ever, he never played. And then Derek Barnett was just an afterthought ad in the latter part of the season and hung around. And last year he played for about $4 million. He was fine. And if Robinson is the new Barnett and gives you a similar level of production, it's worth the $4 million. But as the only,
that would be incredible. If he has a Derek Barnett impact, that would be incredible, even for a team that's known for doing a really good job of developing defensive linemen. That would be incredible.
Sure, it's more likely that he is going to be Darrell Taylor and has less to no impact than he is Derek Barnett. As Barnett had played a tremendous amount of football before he arrived, had played a tremendous amount of football in that style of defense before he arrived. And Dominic Robinson has been barely a rotational player for this Bears team that, by the way, desperately has needed people to play well at the pass rush position, and Robinson has kind of been there. So, yeah, he's definitely a lot closer to Darrell Taylor, where he's, a few $million, no impact, than Derek Barnett, where he overplays. The hope is that he could be a Derek Barnett-esque player, where he's a player you rely on him at the edge. You rely on him to be the guy that is going to come in there and help out that defensive line rotation at defensive end, because part of the reason you keep Will Anderson, you keep Danielle Hunter so fresh into games is they don't play all game. They do that rotation. So Anderson's going to get a chance to be in that rotation, and I would tell you that an up to $4 million contract does nothing to guarantee him a roster spot. If they drafted a guy or if they signed another free agent or something else, they could easily move on from this guy.
Yeah, and it's basically the Trent Brown up to $3 million last year, which was a really good.
Well, at least Trent had previously been productive. This guy's never been productive.
Yeah, except the one game when D'Amico Ryans was on the opposing sidelines and he had a sack and a half.
Damn, did he do he did the Bill O'Brien, Chris Polk thing?
I don't know. Maybe it was just magical for D'Amico. Don't know.
When Chris Polk had that big game against the Texans, and the next year he's on the Texans. And O'Brien was on, I think it was on Hard Knocks. And he's like, he had a great game against us last year. It's like, yeah, it was the only game he had against you. It was the only game he had all season.
So did you have any issue? And I know there's a lot of passion when it comes to free agency. Like, is there anything that you looked at and said, damn, the Texans should have done this, or they really, really missed an opportunity here? Because that's the beauty of this, is it's a very active day. Teams want to be active. Did you look at this and say, damn, the Texans should have done this?
There's not one deal that's been signed right now where I'm like, come on, why didn't you do that? Like, even the Kenneth Walker thing, it feels like they misjudged how expensive the running backs were going to be. Kenneth Walker checking in at less than $15 million average annual value is a big surprise to me. And I feel like a big surprise to a lot of people. So it feels like they misjudged the running back market. And then by virtue of what Montgomery makes and the draft pick commitment to get him, feels like they maybe made they made a hasty decision. Now, does it give credence to my theory that they didn't want to get Saquon again, where they had a good offer, the guy picked somebody else? You want to play for the Texans, you want to play for the Chiefs? I think Kenneth Walker picked the Chiefs if the money was close. So maybe they didn't want to. Maybe that didn't want to happen. They didn't want that scenario to pop up. That's why they went with Montgomery. I'd have done the Walker deal. I'd done the Walker deal and then some if I was a number of teams across the NFL. But ultimately, he ends up on the Chiefs. I know that the Texans weren't interested in him after the Montgomery addition, but again, to me, it feels like they misjudged the running backs. I know a lot of people are upset about Cade Mays going to the Lions, $8 million at center. I wouldn't have paid him $8 million to come play center. I can't sit here and tell you with confidence that he's a for sure upgrade over Jake Andrews. Yeah, he's a different style of center because he's a little bit bigger. That guy wasn't even the starter in Carolina last year. He ended up starting because the starter got hurt. Like, he was the backup center for the Panthers last year. Yeah, he played okay when he got in there, but I'm not thinking there's some great, massive Titanic loss that you didn't get Cade Mays to replace Jake Andrews at center. So there's really not that many deals that I look around and I'm like, man, I wish they'd done that. Like, even these blocking tight ends got overpaid. Like, I wouldn't have paid Charlie Kolar $8 million a year for 3 years. Like, that's a crazy amount of money for the Chargers. Now they got to fix their offensive line outside of tackle. They didn't have good blockers at tight end. They didn't have good interior offensive linemen last year. So they've added a fullback that can block, which helps. They've added a tight end. It's one of the best blocking tight ends. That helps. And then they grabbed a center who got cut from the Commanders. It's like they've done more to improve their struggling offensive line at the spots where they needed to improve that weren't just guys be healthy than the Texans have done. Texans brought back Ingram, brought back Trent Brown. Okay, cool. That's fine. It's like I really don't think there's that many moves where I'm like, damn, I wish they'd done that. Not Linderbaum. Linderbaum got a gazillion dollars.
Yeah, I don't see any. Like, honestly, I don't see any free agent moves where I'm just like, man, the Texans should have done this. There's really not any. I disagree with you that they misevaluated the running back market. I said this as soon as they did it. I think they thought David Montgomery was the second best back available, and that would make the most sense. And I think the price that they gave up was kind of on par with those other guys. They paid a pretty decent price for David Montgomery when you factor in the draft and whatever they end up paying him. So I think that they did. I don't think they misevaluated it. I think they evaluated it pretty accurately.
Yeah, I mean, ETN got $52 million, and it's one of the biggest running back contracts ever. I wouldn't have paid him that. I like Montgomery better than him, and I like the investment on Montgomery more than paying ETN $52 million. I'll go down this entire offseason until the season plays out saying Rico Dowdle's better than David Montgomery, and it doesn't look like Rico Dowdle's getting much of anything from a contract standpoint. So, and I also, too, weren't the Lions just going to cut him? Like, couldn't you have had him in free agency and not given up the pick?
Well, there's some reports that maybe the Broncos wanted him, and there was like some assumptions that perhaps, don't know, but yeah.
Well, if the Broncos want to give up a fourth and go get him, and you go sign Rico Dowdle, you'd have been in a better situation. For me, now it may turn out that I'm wrong, but I think Rico Dowdle's better than Montgomery. They seem to think Montgomery's better, and they gave up a fourth to do it.
Yep, and we will see what happens. Other news that's kind of dropped while we've been on. Tim Settle gets a nice little deal with the Commanders. Good for him. 3 years, $24 million up to 25.5. That according to Mike Garofalo. And then Drake Greenlaw cut by the Broncos. I don't know how he fits into what the Texans do. I know he has the history with D'Amico, but I actually could see him going to Tennessee more so than here. He has a history with Robert Saleh too. So I think he could end up in the AFC South. But it feels like Robert Saleh is bringing in guys that he wants to run his defense. So if you're wanting Dre Greenlaw to come here, I think that's not realistic, especially with the EJ Speed contract. But I do think there's a decent chance that he ends up in the division with the old Oilers, aka the Tennessee Titans.
Yeah, Greenlaw, when I saw him get cut, I thought there's two places that immediately you're going to get linked to him, and that's the Texans because D'Amico Ryans coached him, and the Titans because Robert Saleh coached him. And then offshoots from that style of defense will probably want to crack at Dre Greenlaw, and we'll see ultimately where he ends up. But speed makes it sort of a non-starter. And, I'd be shocked if Dre Greenlaw makes more money than EJ Speed in free agency. So then it's like, oh, there's that EJ Speed contract again. Why'd he get all that money?
All right, let's go to the chat.
Swarm.
Shout out to everyone rolling with us on free agency day one. We want to see you at Spanky's this Friday too. Friday free agent frenzy. We're going to transition into
Friday free agent fizzle out.
Well, we're transitioning into draft mode. We want you there for that at Spanky's this Friday, Sharpstown. Food prizes and the usual stuff that the greatness of Spanky's offers.
I to give away at Spanky's on Friday. We just talked about him. I've got an autographed EJ Speed picture to give away to the people.
There you go. Re-signed EJ Speed. So there you go. We got some more stuff too. We'll have some baseballs and some other things as well. Travel and food with Malik on the chat says free agency isn't won on the first day. LOL, we're good. They'll get better value players. Seems like mostly better players are left than signed so far. Yeah, there's a better chance in free agency. I don't know if that's true, but there's a better chance in free agency that these contracts end up looking bad than looking good. It feels like a lot of guys who we get excited about free agency, they're on the street 2 years later. I will say this from like a philosophical standpoint. The Texans, outside of when they had just a crap ton of cap space, they don't overpay free agents. They get bargains, and then they overpay them after that before they hit free agency. So the overpay is after they get a bargain. Typically, they don't typically overpay free agents. That's kind of how they do things.
Yeah, they get a deal, and then once the guy's been in the building, he gets the I'm familiar with you bonus.
Correct. JC on the chat says, who from the 8 divisional rounders have gotten better so far by addition or subtraction? This is an interesting exercise. So
the Rams are way better.
The Rams improved their biggest weakness in corner, and they spent a hell of a lot of money in doing so. And oh, by the way, they also have a high draft pick as a result of the Atlanta Falcons. So give them credit on that. The Seahawks got worse. They lost their offensive coordinator, and they lost their best running back. So they got worse.
Lost the starting safety, lost one of their best pass rushers to the Bengals.
Correct. The 49ers, I guess they've gotten, depending on what happens with Trent Williams, they added Mike Evans. That doesn't hurt. I mean, it's weird, but they did miss Ayuk last year, and I'm sure they're going to trade Ayuk and get draft equity too.
Sure.
Looks like to the Commanders. So I guess you can say they got slightly better, maybe. I don't know. They're old, so they got older. And then the other team in the divisional round was in the NFC was
the Bills are I would say a little bit better.
The Bears, though. It finished off the NFC. The Bears.
Oh yeah, the Bears. I would think that they're kind of about the same, but I also very much believe that their guys last year that were rookies are going to be even better.
Yeah.
I know Colson Loveland and Luther Burden are going to be better than last year.
Yeah, DJ Moore was a big part of what they did. Like, you don't yawn at it, but it does seem like the arrow is pointing up on Luther Burden. I think Colson Loveland's going to be top 5 tight end very easily. And then you think Caleb probably gets a little bit better. So, yeah. Although their center did retire. That's kind of big.
Yeah, but then they traded for Garrett Bradbury from the Patriots.
Yeah, they did all right.
So they went and found a center who just went to the Super Bowl. And and played him. So those are the NFC teams. And the AFC teams, I mean, I think the Bills are slightly like a tiny bit better.
They brought back their center, and they brought it. They needed a receiver, regardless of what you think of DJ Moore, and he helped.
The Broncos are worse. They lost one of their best defensive linemen. And
and he's going to be someone that we see twice a year, right next to Jeffrey Simmons.
He's going to be a terror in the AFC South with Jeffrey Simmons next to him. That's John Franklin Myers, that the Titans spent $63 million on him, and he's going to be awesome next to Simmons. And they added Jermaine Johnson too, so they're going to. I mean, they've got some juice to that defensive line over there in Tennessee. And then I think the Patriots are worse. And the Texans are about the same.
Yeah, I'd like the Titus Howard thing. Like, if you don't improve it, then that kind of sucks. But I think they're going to do something. So
if you want to say they're slightly worse, I'd listen to the argument.
Yeah,
it's a good exercise, Jay Curd.
Yeah, that was fun. Appreciate you, man. That was a good little soup there.
Swarm.
River BZND says 5 years ago we had to pay a wide receivers coach to act as a head coach. Today we're re-signing proven players. Good job, Nick. Yeah, I mean, if you're going to compare this to the Coley era, you're going to feel great. Caserio does that every year. So yeah, you're always going to be satisfied if that's the case. I would not hold them to the standard of what I call the process over results era, where you had Coley and Lovie Smith. There was no pressure to win. You were kind of tanking. You were waiting to be able to trade Deshaun, and you were clearing cap space. But yeah, that's it. Sure, if you compare it to what it was then, sure.
Yeah.
You disagree with that, don't you?
No, I don't give a damn what happened when David Culley was the coach, and I don't give a damn what happened when Lovie Smith was the coach. I care what happened when DeMeco Ryans was the coach, and I don't feel like they are or have maximized the opportunity that they have.
Agree.
They won more games and went down in the standings.
I would agree. I would say that too. I don't hold them to that standard. I think it's a weird thing to look at because it's not even apples to oranges. Like it's not you. I'll look at the DeMeco Ryans, Nick Caserio era, and I gave Caserio the process over results free pass. I look at it as you had the most draft equity, you had the most cap space, and you had a 3-year window. And two teams that were behind you in their processes are just as far, if not further along in the process. When you look at New England, you look at Chicago, you look at Denver, like all those teams have kind of got the arrow pointing up a little bit more. So that's a good way to look at it. I wish I could live life like that. I just can't. I just don't think it's fair to compare what David Culley was working with and what the expectations were and what they were trying to do to now. But yeah, that's good. It's a good way to look at it.
Yeah, they go ahead and smash their head on the divisional round ceiling again. We'll all be sitting here in free agency a year from now being like, well, what happened?
Colston 6022 says, sorry, I haven't been on that much. Lost my sister back in January, but I'm back. And as always, Cody and Landry, you're the guts. Hey, sorry about your loss, my friend.
So I got Charles, man. Sorry about that.
Big Charles. We met you at Spanky's before. Keep your head up, man. And keep doing what you do, my friend. Serious condolences from us. Sir Wags 254 says, greetings from Hawaii. It's noon here. Shout out to Hawaii. Thoughts on the edge defender we signed? Don't know him. Never heard of him. I know that he had a sack and a half against DeMeco in 2022 in the first game, and Aaron Wilson pulled the ultimate alpha move. That was beast mode.
Hey, bro, Alpha Aaron here.
And he posted his pro day results from 4 years ago. So there you go. Look at that.
41-inch vertical, 25 bench reps, a 4.72 40. How did this guy slip to the 5th round?
He's been in the league for a few years now.
So he got 3.5 sacks in 4 years. Oh, okay.
Hey, bro, Alpha Aaron.
That's an alpha move, though, right there. That's a good dig. I hope it's not another Darrell Taylor.
It probably is.
Sir Wag says, who else you think they are targeting?
I don't know who. I mean,
your guess is as good as mine. We'll put together tomorrow or tonight. We'll put together a best available list and kind of go through that. Right now, we're shuffling through it, so
yeah,
we could say someone, and then that guy will be gone in an hour. As you know, if you were listening to Cody's live stream today. Sean James 6944 says Ingram at that price looks better, having now seen some of today's guard deals. Also, T's and P's to those melting down on Texans Twitter today. Are there meltdowns going on? I think that's crazy.
I think there are a lot of people that wish they'd gotten a center.
Okay, who and at what price? Like that is an absolute insane price right now.
I do not know where all the Cade Mays fans came from, but there were a lot of Cade Mays fans.
Okay, cool. That's fair.
And if you want a veteran center, Ethan Postage is still out there. They could still go sign Ethan Postage.
Fair. Yeah, I agree with you on the Ingram thing. I think we're all lockstep on that.
I do wonder if there was an element of like, hey, I'd really like to be here, and I'll give up a couple of bucks to do it, because I do think he could have gotten more just wide open free agency.
Yeah, that's fair. The Bearded Ways says we didn't really think, quote, the smartest guy in the room was going to change his ways. Caserio is cheap and hates speed. All right. So I was talking about this with Cody today when I was going to pick up my daughter. I think that I philosophically, I have no problem with them not being aggressive in free agency. But if you kind of listen to Caserio talk and then you combine that with what they're doing specifically with like Trent Brown and Ingram, I think the Texans really missed out on a chance to be humbled and it provide clarity. And by that, I mean, I think eventually, whether it was against Denver or Seattle, I think we would have gotten a real clear picture of what's wrong with this Texans team to end the season. Like, remember when the Chiefs lost in the Super Bowl to the Eagles and it was like, damn, they really need to fix this offensive line. And it was just so clear because it was the last thing that you saw. And as a result, they proactively went and did that. And I think they won another title after that. I think the Texans, because of CJ Stroud's performance, I think that they kind of avoided like a real humbling awakening, whether it be the offense disappearing or the offensive line completely shitting the bed against Denver or Seattle, and maybe even like the defense showing some holes. But because CJ did what he did, and I'm not pardoning him by any stretch of the imagination, I think there's a couple of things that happened. Number one, I think Caserio thinks that he put together some sort of championship squad that CJ Stroud got in the way of. And number two, it did not allow them to have that sense of humility where the offensive line just gets completely punked like they did when we saw them play Seattle. And like I think would have happened against Denver the second time around. So I do get that philosophically. I don't know how much that changes, but I do think CJ Stroud kind of prevented them from getting that humble clarity and the arrogant way in which Caserio kind of talked about the offense. I thought it was funny, but I think it's also kind of delusional as well.
Yeah, I think the funny part about it too is in the midst of CJ having that bad of a game, the offensive line did not do a good job pass blocking and they did not do a good job run blocking. And if they had to play a game tomorrow, they'd run those four of the same five guys out there. They'd put Ingram on the field. They'd put Andrews on the field. They'd put Ursery on the field. Patterson would be the left guard if they had to play today. And then Trent missed, but Trent Brown wasn't saving that game because CJ was really bad. I mean, it's not like if Trent Brown was there, CJ would have just been like this calm, zen quarterback. He'd still done some stupid shit. But yeah, it's funny that stink really overwhelmed some of the stench there at the end from some of the positions that people still want to get improved.
Yeah, I think it just kind of held you back. But if you do look at this, and I'm kind of doing the training camp thing that we do, where we basically have like the 53 in front of us, and I've kind of been updating it as we go. If you look like as far as the lineup part that I always talk about, yeah, you have it too.
Yeah. What do you got?
Yeah. I mean, I'm only putting guys that I think are impact guys. Yours is everybody. Like I'm just I'm only putting guys that I think can.
Oh, you got starters. Here we go.
Yeah, these are the starters. And you're right about Patterson right there, but they have a starting lineup filled. Like that's really.
Yeah, Caserio loves if we had to go play a game tomorrow, we have a team.
Yeah,
he's a big fan of that.
Yeah, so you have that. I mean, there's a lot of potential to upgrade. I think you're set at QB. Running back, you could probably add someone to the room. Wide receiver, I mean,
outside speed, maybe.
Yeah, outside speed or maybe something like that. Tight end, you absolutely have to, or else you're just unserious, especially with what the price was of these guys. O-line right there, pretty much the same thing. You have Patterson. DE, I'm not even going to put this new guy on there. We'll see what he can do. But just as far as guys that I think would actually play, and we'll see if they cut Edwards Jr. or not. But yeah, this is basically what you got right now, and you can fill out a lineup. So
yeah,
there you go.
Yeah, and there's still guys out there that, if they brought him in from this position or that position perspective, could immediately start, or maybe could beat out some of the guys that you see on the depth chart already. And that's the other thing too. If they nail a couple of these draft picks, like there could be guys that come in here and outplay. Like, could they draft a guy at 28 that starts at right tackle over Trent Brown? Hell yeah, they could. Could they draft a defensive tackle at 28 or 38 that is immediately in the rotation? Hell yeah, they could. So I think there's definitely still room for improvement, and I'd love to see some of these. I'd love to see some of these guys that got brought back get Nick Niemann by somebody else.
Yeah, they haven't really said that they don't think that Jake Andrews is a starter. They've said they're open to upgrade, but they have said like Jared Patterson's a 5th or 6th offensive lineman. So, I mean, maybe I guess he's technically the 5th offensive lineman if he starts at left guard, but Caserio has told you what he thinks about that. So,
I mean, they don't think Patterson's good enough to start at center, or they'd have started him over Andrews, but he's good enough to have played left guard when they didn't want to put Blake Fisher on the field at right tackle.
Maybe there's like a rotation. Who knows? AJ says 5 TBs for a RB ain't it?
5 touchdowns for a running back ain't it?
Yeah, what's he mean by that? He's talking about.
Is he talking about the running back room last year?
Or is he talking about Walker? Did Walker have only 5 TDs? Is that his thing?
Good question.
Maybe that's what he means. I don't.
Kenneth Walker had 5 touchdowns in the regular season.
I mean,
yeah.
he was.
Watch the games. Watch the games.
Why are you yelling, dude?
It's just dumb. Watch the game. They put in the inferior running back in the red zone every time. Watch the games.
Brees Hall had 4. Brees Hall had 4 touchdowns.
Why isn't Raheem Mostert on a team? He scored 18 touchdowns 2 years ago. Oh, that's right. It's not indicative if you're a good football player or not.
Yeah, I don't know that the touchdowns is a thing. I can assume that he'll probably get a little bit more with the Chiefs, but who knows?
Yeah, because they're not going to be dumbasses and put the inferior running back in the red zone.
Cody's mad at you, AJ. Sean James says, strong disagree on Houston misreading the running back market. Walker gets to play with Mahomes, and ETM wanted to play close to home.
Sean, you don't buy that play close to home bull crap, do you? Come on.
See, he's disagreeing with you because I think they just valued Montgomery as RB2. I think they valued Montgomery as RB2, and they aggressively went and got him. That's how I look at it. You think they misevaluated? I do not.
I mean, at this point, I'll be shocked if Dowdle gets more money than what Montgomery's making this year. It's really just hinges on Dowdle because Brees Hall never made it to free agency. Kenneth Walker was expensive. Maybe they couldn't have got him. And I wouldn't have paid Travis Etienne. So, but don't buy. I wanted to play close to home. If there was a team in Antarctica and they offered $54 million, he'd be on the Antarctican abominable snowmen or whatever.
Timothy says, would you go after Jenkins for 10 mil?
This is Elgton Jenkins, the former center for the Packers. I texted my Packers guy about him and said, "Hey, what's the deal? Why the Packers moving on? What's going on?" He's like, "Well, it's kind of weird. Most Packers fans wanted him to stay, but they didn't want him to stay at center." Said he was kind of pissed about playing center, but he was much better at guard for them.
Yeah.
He's played all over the offensive line, left tackle and guard, but he's the best place he played was at guard. Said he's one of the only Packers offensive linemen with a little bit of dog in him. Good guy, nothing bad to say. He was pissed that he was playing center and they were screwing with his money because he didn't think he was going to end up ever playing center. And a lot of Packers fans wanted him back. A lot of Packers people thought he was going to be back in some way, shape, or form, and they saved the money and moved on. So whatever team gets him should be thrilled to have him.
Oh, that's a hell of an endorsement. So he is not thrilled that the Packers.
So if you're thinking about Jenkins, the guy that got released by the Packers today, he may not want to play center. So think about him as a left guard.
Yep. So there you go. Not thrilled that he got sent his walking boots, which brings me to Front Workwear. I got some good news for you. They have restocked the Omen boots. That is my boot of choice. It's the most comfortable boot that I wear. I'm not the guy that's going to be out in the yard working. There's a lot of guys, a lot of listeners that have the more intense boots. I'm more of a casual Omen guy. It's intense for me, but it's the most comfortable walking boot that I have. It's very easy to take on and off. It looks fantastic. It was so popular that they had to restock it, but it probably will not last long. You can get $10 off at Brunt with the code S&L. That's SANDL. Whether you want to get the intense boots like Stoots or you want to get them Omens, trust me, Brunt Workwear, they got the best boots. They got some great gear as well. Shout out to Brunt. Go to Brunt, get $10 off with that code SNL. Get the Omens. You will not regret it. I promise you.
Yeah, Landry's got those slip-on Omens, and man, I'm jealous. I'm gonna have to get me a pair in a different color than the ones I have. I got the lace-up work boots, and tell you what, being in Houston when it gets wet and nasty outside, and those waterproof boots come in handy. Brunt does a fantastic job. All their workwear is great. We're happy to have them as partners, and you'll be happy to have their boots on your feet. That cushion technology makes it easy to chill in those boots all day long if you need to. So use that code S&L when you visit our friends at Brunt.
Shout out to Brunt. All right, so run it back and sit back. I think we both agree. Nothing too crazy here when it comes to the Texans. I don't see like a ton of opportunity in free agency. It's just kind of a tough thing to go all in on, especially when you don't inevitably have the QB on the rookie deal.
Swarm.
Lidsation says still need to buy a left guard, draft center, and RT. That's a lot.
I mean, yeah, I think there's left guards that can come out here and out of free agency and play right away for the Texans and be better than Jared Patterson, certainly. And then there's definitely some right tackles in this draft and center. You know, it might be a little tougher to thread the needle and get that center, but it's not impossible.
MMA God says the clarity was CJ is in him. Could be very true. Could be very true. He definitely showed you that he was not ready for that moment. That moment was way too big for him, both games, honestly, including the Pittsburgh game where he said he played well. Sean James 6944 says, based on last two super chats, never talk about RB with Cody. Yeah, running backs have Cody in his feelings.
Well, don't say something stupid like, well, Kenneth Walker only had 4 touchdowns. He's not good.
5
See? Touchdowns, so he's not good.
Yeah, it's a little crazy.
How many did he have in the playoffs, pal? When they leaned on him. Go sign Raheem Mostert, see how that works out.
I think there's a couple of things here when it comes to the Texans. My biggest takeaways, and we appreciate everyone for rolling through here on the first day of free agency. They're one position away from filling out the lineup card, which I think is cool because then I think you can swing for the fences. Now, some will say you got to draft an offensive lineman. John McClain's already said that. Dude, you gotta draft the best players available. And at this point, unless CJ Stroud is just going to elevate his play way up, then I think you're going to have to get some impact guys at whatever position. And you have to be very open-minded. And I give them credit for filling out the lineup card up to this point. So that's takeaway one. The next thing, though, Cody, is can the rib guys maintain the level of play? Like the rib guys have to maintain the level of play that they've had that caused the Texans to fall in love with them. And the rib guys are the run it back guys. The guys in their 30s that you obviously like, the Dalton Schultzes, the Daniil Hunters, how Sheldon Rankins. I mean, are those guys able to maintain their play? In a perfect world, yes. Like there's young guys that you hope elevate their play. There's a number of guys on defense that you hope elevate their play. We can go all the way from Tommy Togiai to Kalen Bullock, all the way around. You hope that they elevate their play. With these 30-year-olds, you're basically asking them to maintain their level of play. And that's the Sheldon Rankins, and that's the Dalton Schultz. And Ed Ingram, you're hoping that he elevates it. But that's really where you're going to find yourself in trouble if that does not happen, because we saw what they looked like last year without a good DT and good DT depth. And Sheldon Rankins was able to hold it down. I'm sure they'll add some guys as well. And Dalton Schultz, I don't know what direction this goes. Like the 2 years that you've had from Dalton Schultz that were good, they were both years where he was fighting for a contract. You've eliminated that this year, and the one time that you've had Dalton Schultz out there not fighting for a contract, it wasn't great. And the other thing is, I don't know if people really see this and really see how this looked throughout the week. I think you had a decent visual, and hopefully we provided that to you, especially the people who ride with us from like Monday to Wednesday to Thursday to Friday when it comes to practice. Dalton Schultz had to put a hell of a lot, his body through a hell of a lot last year to be able to play as much as he did. Mm-hmm. And there were a number of things that I think factored into that. Number one, he's a tough son of a bitch. Like whatever you want to say about Dalton Schultz, he's a tough son of a bitch. So there is that. The other thing is they couldn't afford for him not to be on the field. Like it would have been nice for them to have a Harold Fannin or something like that, or an Elijah Arroyo, or just name a tight end that Dalton Schultz could not be on the field and they would have a chance to function as an offense. They don't have that. So if they're expecting Dalton Schultz as one of these rib guys to maintain his level of play, you better get him some fucking help at tight end. Seriously, like you better get him some help, because having Cade Stover on the field, and I know it always goes in this direction, but 40% of the time, that version of Cade Stover, I'll be respectful and say that maybe that can change. Dalton Schultz will not hold up. That contract will not age well. You cannot ask him to do what he was asked to do last year and expect that level of play to maintain. Sheldon Rankins is going to be 32 years old before the season starts. I don't know what that's like. I feel like defensive tackles like kind of wear down around that age. We've seen better DTs than Sheldon Rankins kind of start to decline around that age. Some of the best that we've seen in our lifetimes, like around that age, you kind of start to decline. So they need those guys to maintain that level of play, or they need to improve the surroundings around them. And those things can go hand in hand. But that's basically when you talk about the run it back factor, that's what they're banking on.
I'm more worried. I'm more worried about Schultz keeping his level of play than I am Rankins, because there's no rotation for Schultz. They have to put him out there until they improve the room. At least Rankins doesn't have to be out there every snap. They have a defensive tackle out there. Like if they put a tight end out there, it's not Dalton Schultz. They're not throwing that guy the football. I have no idea what Brevin Jordan's going to be after season-ending injuries, not counting on him. They can't throw Cade Stover the football. So if Schultz isn't out there, the tight end's blocking. Or he's an emergency 2 yards and hope he catches a guy. Sheldon Rankins at least has a rotation where you can take some of the workload off him. And I hope they add to that rotation with a draft pick, a defensive tackle.
They will.
Those two big run it back guys that you just talked about, both positions need to be invested in via the draft to get young, cost-controlled, long-term talent there.
Yeah, I would agree with that for sure. Let's go back to the chat here on SNL free agency day one. Still no news, no more news with the Texans. They're remaining quiet. I feel like it's going to be an active day two, though.
The Raiders just spent like $100 million on linebackers.
Well, they have a lot of money because they got that rookie deal. They also have their running back on a rookie deal, and they have their tight end on a rookie deal. So there's some cheap stuff going on with the Raiders.
Swarm.
Oh yeah, they also just added 2 1s. So yeah, it's not a bad layout for old Kubiak. It's kind of D'Amico like, if we're being honest, kind of D'Amico like with the layout. Except I guess Nico wasn't really Nico at that point, but Brock Bowers is already creme de la creme, and then I think Genty can be good too.
And as soon as they realized they had an issue on the offensive line, they went and spent at the top of the market to fix it. Not really the Texans.
Paulie Young 3433 says, while Cody is ranting why we signed a fullback in Monty.
He keeps calling David Montgomery a fullback instead of a running back.
Because he's short yardage guy.
Yeah.
Willie Roy Boy says, fans just feel a lack of urgency from management. It still feels like yesterday when they were doing the O-line carousel the first month of the season. I don't think that they look at that as an insult. I think they're, I don't want to say they're copying, but it does feel like it's kind of like we said this philosophically. This is kind of aligns with what they did last year. And I think that they thought last year they had a good year, and see what happens. I am excited about the draft though. Swinging for the fences. I think it's going to be fun. I think there's a lot of possibilities, especially once they start shopping in the bargain bin in a sec.
Well, and at the very least, not be boxed in where you feel like you have to do X in the draft. That feels like something that feels pretty important to them. Because I do wonder if last year, even though I like the players they got in Jaden Higgins and Jalen Noel and Ariante Ursary, I obviously didn't like Ursary at the time. He ended up being a nice player. But I wonder if they didn't love I had to go get those guys nature of that draft, and they wanted to give themselves a few more options when their time does come up on the clock here in this draft. Because they had to get wide receivers and an offensive lineman in the draft last year.
Yeah, I think it goes back to the fill the lineup card and swing for the fences, which, I mean, don't threaten us with a good time when it comes to the draft.
Yeah.
Don't threaten us with a good time. Like, there's nothing like in free agency that I look at and expected them to do. I do think the run it back is a little bit dramatic for me. Like it kind of feels like a little bit much. But like, as far as the draft, if they hit it out the park in the draft, then the sky's the limit. Now, then we can get back to the quarterback. But for this point, I almost feel like we're kind of setting the quarterback to the side because a number of things, you have to put as good of a team as possible around him no matter what. And I also think that there's not reason to have a ton of confidence in him right now. So you just kind of set that to the side. Maybe they put together the best team possible. Maybe they don't. And there you go.
And there's still, like, again, I think there's still some scenarios where people should be, I'm not going to tell you thrilled, but like people should be okay with how they operated if they end up with a couple of different names on their offensive line. Like if Trent Williams ends up on this team at left tackle, like I mean, as long as you don't do something stupid with a draft pick to get him here, like pay him the money, make him the left tackle, Ursary's your right tackle, Trent Brown's your swing tackle, and your line is in a much better situation. Isaac Seumalo from Pittsburgh, they end up with him at left guard. Like that's a player that's a nice player that's not the type of caliber that they've previously invested in free agency since D'Amico Ryans and Nick Caserio have gotten here on the offensive line. So there's still outcomes that are positive. It just does feel like they seem less like the Trent Williams thing is weird because that's up to the 49ers to kind of make something happen there. But it does seem weird that the Texans maybe still have this big need sitting there, and there's still players that kind of fit that need, and they haven't done something that.
Look, if they get twice as much from Trent Brown, because that's what the contract is, if they get twice as much from Trent Brown this year than they did last, then they look like the biggest geniuses in the world.
Yeah, if they got 14 games and good play out of Trent Brown, that'd be a really nice deal.
It's a 400-pound if, though. And it's not even listed at 380. They're not going to even lie to you about it. It's a 400+ pound if. But yeah, I don't know. You know, it kind of is what it is. I also, with the CJ Stroud thing, even though we've put it aside, I do kind of like. I feel like our minds are still kind of trained to where we assume that they're eventually just going to pay him. Our mine is.
Not mine.
Okay, and that kind of changes the way that you look at this too, because right now it just feels like you're on a, I don't want to say handcuff, but it feels like there's really not much you can do. But if they do move on from CJ, that makes this look a lot more different and a little bit stranger.
Well, if they move on from CJ, it's going to be a weird quest to find a quarterback. A real weird deal.
I don't know if Brandon's being sarcastic or not on the chat. It's always kind of hard to read him. I like his humor and I like his insight, but I can never tell when he's being serious or not, which is a good skill. He says Rankins is probably back to help mentor their draft pick. Is he being serious or is he being sarcastic?
I think there's some sarcasm wrapped in the somewhat truth.
I guess. I don't know. The thing is, I don't care about Sheldon Rankins mentoring at this point. Like, I think Tommy Togiai, Will Anderson are more than capable of mentoring a young guy.
How about Rod Wright can just coach the guy?
Yeah, I'm not worried about the mentor stuff at this point. I think Will Anderson has at least taken off the Huggies pull-ups. I think Will Anderson can handle this.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know if he's being serious or not. Rudy E says, I think it's unrealistic to depend on CJ to improve. If we can run this O-line back with no major differences, still got time in draft, but feels likely run back. No, they have to put around the best team possible around CJ Stroud. We agree with that. That's what they're going to try to do, regardless. So I would agree with that. The reality is he's wet the bed last year, and now you got to wonder if he's going to be yipped out, and that's kind of a warning sign or not. But yeah, they obviously have to put a better team around CJ Stroud, whether he, and that would be the case, whether he threw 6 touchdowns against New England and then 4 touchdowns. Like you got to put the best team possible around the guy especially when you have limited cap space and everything else. So yeah, I would agree with that. But I think that would have been in case no matter what.
I also think too, like if the O-line is roughly the same, like I'm not giving that as like a full-blown excuse for whatever happens to CJ Stroud. And I don't believe this O-line is going to remain the way it looks right now. I still believe they're going to sign a body in free agency, and I believe that the draft will be used to address the O-line in some way, shape, or form. But it's not going to be – I'm not going to just – at the end of 2024, I kind of threw a blanket over Stroud's season and just kind of blamed the O-line, even though some of the stuff CJ was in charge of he wasn't good at. And then when you know it, in 2025, some of that was carried over from the CJ standpoint, even though the O-line got a little bit better from a pass protection standpoint.
Yeah, I would agree with that. But yeah, that's just kind of what they're doing. But I don't think there's like a ton of I don't think there's like a ton of crazy things to think about when it comes to that.
Yeah, I mean, if they had not signed Ed Ingram and Sheldon Rankins and had spent on like a defensive tackle or a linebacker or a safety, I think people would have been beside themselves. Like you'd have 2 open spots on the line still, and you'd have spent big money on a defensive player. I think people would have been sort of beside themselves.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. There is absolutely zero doubt about that. By the way, Texans Collective tonight at 6 with myself, Cody, Sean Pendergast, and Reginald Atatula. We will be.
Nope, we traded Baldy to the Titans Collective.
he's still part of the show. So I still say the name even if he's not there. I don't give TMI. I know you like to tell the live story. By the way, how is the stream today? You were on for 5 hours. I listened as I was making the thumb today. How was it? How'd it go?
I thought it was good. I thought it was good. The Texans didn't have much movement and talked about a bunch of the deals around the league. 2 huge AFC South wide receiver contracts and Alec Pierce and Wan'Dale Robinson. So pretty intriguing to see what those guys end up doing with those big money numbers. I would tell you Wan'Dale's probably got a better chance to succeed than Pierce and be worth the dollars, even though they both feel like big overpays for both teams. So that was intriguing to watch. And then the Titans loading up has been. Yeah,
the biggest. That was gonna bring me to this. The biggest AFC South obs. I think Tennessee, whatever you think of it, they are maximizing their opportunity with a rookie quarterback and a new coach. Now, Robert Saleh is getting the guys he wants on defense, and Brian Dable's getting the guys that he knows on offense. Like what everyone's like, Wan'Dale Robinson. Why the hell you pay Wan'Dale Robinson? Why did D'Amico Ryans give Jimmy Ward a $6 million 1-year extension when he had one leg? Because you know the guy. So I actually think you just kind of connect that to like familiarity. I like Wan'Dale Robinson, actually. I think he's a pretty good player. Is he worth $20 million? I don't know. I don't think Alec Pierce is worth 30. So I don't know what the hell a free agent wide receiver is worth. I do think the Colts, though, I've always liked Michael Pittman. He's never like taken that next leap. Like there's been times where he's done better than other years, but it's always like he's consistent, but there's never been like a jump. Now that could have as much to do with the quarterback. He goes to Pittsburgh. I don't know if we still consider Pittsburgh like in the mix, but they desperately needed skill guys. Now they lost Kenneth Gainwell. He goes to Tampa Bay,
which was kind of a weird deal.
Which is kind of a weird deal for sure because it feels like they have guys that can do what he does. But what were your thoughts on what the Colts did? Titans, obviously, they're just going all in. What do you think of the Colts?
Yeah, the Colts situation. I mean, they felt like they had to pay Daniel Jones, and that's going to be their quarterback. And then they felt like they had to keep Alec Pierce, and they spent a ton of money doing that. They get rid of Pittman to basically afford Pierce, but they now don't have a legit starter opposite Pierce. I like Downs in the slot for them. I guess Warren being a bigger factor in receiving helps offset Pittman. Just run the ball with Jonathan Taylor, hope for the best. And then they're losing, some players off the defense too. So it's a weird deal in Indy. And then Jacksonville's done nothing. Like quiet.
Well, they lost ETN.
Yep. And Devin Lloyd's still a free agent, one of their linebackers.
I would also argue that yes, they did, but you can also make a case that they did a very good job of being proactive at the trade deadline so that they didn't really have to chase their tail here. Now there's talk that they're going to trade Brian Thomas Jr., which, man, it just feels like if I was a team that needed a
stud wide receiver.
I mean, I don't know if he's a stud or not at this point, but if I needed a receiver, I'd
rather, whatever it costs to get Brian Thomas Jr., I'd rather pay that than get A.J. Brown.
Yeah,
I think the Jaguars are going to trade for Jalen Carter.
With what?
Whatever they got.
They don't have any. They're going to trade a first round next year. Are they just going to go Are they just going to go all Rams?
What about if A.J. Brown gets traded? They trade Brian Thomas Jr. and picks for Jalen Carter.
Maybe. I don't know. I mean, if you have Jalen Carter and Jeffrey Simmons in this division, then the interior O line fixing that it probably should be done anyways. But the interior line, you definitely need to fix that.
Damn, Rashid Shaheed just got $51 million from the Seahawks.
Sheesh.
3 years, 51.
Damn, they valued him more than Kenneth Walker. That's the moral of the story today.
Good grief.
Rashid Shaheed. I just tweeted out the Texans Collective on X. If y'all aren't subscribed, actually, I'll put it in the chat right now. We're pretty deep in this. It's a good different POV. I just put the chat. Be sure to subscribe to the Texans Collective, if you don't mind, while we're rolling here. Let's go back to Z-Chat.
Swarm.
Gopher says, do you think the Texans are more likely to include 2027 first pick in a trade package, knowing if CJ doesn't work out, they can tag him for 2 firsts?
The logic's pretty rough here because if he doesn't work out, he's still under the 5th-year option, which I assume they're going to pick up.
They better.
And so the tag is not available. It's still the 5th-year option. He still has a year left on his contract. And I would think that if he doesn't work out, nobody's giving you multiple firsts for him. Would kind of be my thought process about it. So the logic's all over the place here that didn't quite align. If he doesn't work out, someone will take a flyer on him a year from now. If he does work out, then you'll extend him and he's your quarterback. I think that's kind of the big element of it. And I would not trade a future. I would not trade a future first. I don't know what you'd be getting that you're trading a future first. Like you have extra draft capital in this draft. You'd trade that before you trade the future first.
Yeah, the thing about the Texans that I think is kind of unique is that the core is still pretty young. The core is young, but like the glue guys are kind of like I guess they're glue guys. I don't know what term you want to use. They're kind of a little bit older. So it's a weird outlook when you see like Rankins. Like Rankins is, I mean, that's good for him for getting what he got, but man.
Oh, is Rankins a glue guy? I guess he probably falls under that category because like you'd consider like Anderson to be a foundational piece, Kamari is a foundational piece, Stingley's a foundational piece.
Togiai's TBD.
Togiai's TBD. Yeah, to find out exactly what he is. Be interested to see if they do something at linebacker with Aziz.
Yeah, but I don't have any complaints about the way Caserio handled himself today at all. And I think even there's been times where they've ended up making big moves where you kind of see him do his thing later. So
I mean, this time 2 years ago is about when they grabbed Danielle Hunter.
Yeah, and I stay in my lane typically. I take a back seat when it comes to offensive line to you and other guys. So I don't like the Cade Mays thing. I don't know. Does that mean that I think the Texans are like, I think there's always kind of like a mindset in free agency. Like, and saying that, I'm not sitting here saying that I think the Texans are still at the same place in the pecking order. I just don't know that there's anything they could have done that would have changed that. That would be my way of saying it. Like, I think that it's possible that I think this defense can carry you far enough to where your floor is high, to where you're in the playoff mix no matter what. But I think there's also potential when you look at this roster and you look at the quarterback, most importantly, to where you could be one of the disappointing teams of 2026. That's saying that without seeing what happens in the draft. I think the draft is an opportunity to completely swing all of that. And that's the beauty of, as I say, filling out your lineup card before, to where you don't go into the draft with extreme dire needs to not be able to fill up a lineup card. So as far as the free agency goes, you're filling out the lineup card, and then when the draft comes around, it's gonna be fun, man.
Oh yeah,
I'm looking forward to it. I love it.
Yeah, and a lot of the spots that you would go find some rookies right now, as you look at the roster, are spots that have some really fun options for the Texans to go and get from a draft standpoint. So, be fascinating.
All right. Anything else that you would like to add when it comes to this? And I wanted to touch on the contenders before we get out of here and we get ready for the collective in 30 minutes. And again, the link there with the collective, if you want to ride along, locker room will be at 10:30 tonight. Hopefully there's some other stuff that happens. But what contenders do you think got better? Kansas City, Buffalo?
Kansas City better. Buffalo, I would say slightly better.
I would take a dark horse right now, and I kind of did. I would take a dark horse pick on the Chargers to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, they're gonna have to get some guards.
They're definitely doing a lot, and they're getting 2 really good tackles back. So I think the Chargers got better, and you also added Mike McDaniel. That's a dark horse pick, people.
I don't think it's going to be a dark horse very long, to be honest with you.
They're the favorite in the West right now. And then I would say that Baltimore
hasn't done much today.
I'd say they got better. They lost their center. They lost one of their tight end threats. They lost one of their better blockers that helps their run game. I don't think you can. They got Crosby. They needed to rush the passer, but I think if you put what they got and what they lost side by side, I don't think you can 100% say that Baltimore got better.
I wonder if they regret not tagging Linderbaum. I mean, picking up the 5th-year option. Excuse me.
I would hope so.
Like, did they just massively misplay the market?
Yeah, tagging him would have been about what he got though, but like.
Yeah, at least he'd still be on their team.
Yeah, it would be about what he got. But yeah, I don't think you can say that. But I think Kansas City's intriguing. I do think Jeremiah Love goes to the Titans. I'm starting to feel like he's going to the Titans.
And yeah, the Titans feel like they're about to load up on offense and try to find out exactly how good Cam Ward is.
Doesn't it feel like Kansas City and maybe New Orleans thought that too?
With their investment in running back, it does. Yes.
Yeah. I'm starting to feel like Jeremiah Love is going to be in the division.
I would not put it past Arizona taking Jeremiah Love.
That's a possibility too. Although they just added
Tyler Algier.
They added Tyler Algier. So, and they have like 3 running backs.
Tyler Algier's the perfect guy to be a compliment to a rookie who's way better than him.
Congratulations on freeing yourself from Bijan. Now we got Jeremiah Love.
Yeah, exactly.
Running back for you to go back to that role.
Exactly. And then I would like to say congratulations to Adam Peters for joining the illustrious club of Bill O'Brien and Nick Caserio as the general manager that made Laramie Tunsil the highest paid offensive lineman in football again.
2-year deal for LT. So there you go.
And now Tunsil gets exactly what he wants. He gets to talk about his money. So good for Laramie.
So there we go. Again, Friday at Spanky's, Friday free agent frenzy. We want to see you there. A lot of people in the chat right now. The reason that we're dipping out, we would hang out with you longer. We got the Texans Collective presented by Hog Media, our agency. So we'll be back at the top of the hour. Again, subscribe to the Texans Collective. We'll get some more POV. I'm interested to hear what Reginald has to say about this as well. Sean Pendergast rolls along with us as well. And we appreciate y'all for rolling through. Is there anything else you'd like to add, Cody? Do you want to scream about running backs anymore?
Well, no, the guy said something stupid. I can't be held accountable for reacting to stupidity. No, I'm good. That's all I got. Isaiah Likely made a few more dollars than I thought he would make, and it's weird that Harbaugh's bringing all his buddies to New York.
It's kind of a thing. Everybody brings their dudes. So
yeah, I guess I can't. I really like how the Rams operate. I mean, they went out there and just, we need 2 corners. Cool. We'll trade for one and we'll sign one.
Well,
right.
The Falcons helped a little bit.
Sure.
The Falcons helped a little bit.
Sure.
The Rams still have a very high pick. And you know what they're going to do? They're going to F around and run that 2 tight ends that they run more than anyone, and they're going to put Sadiq in there as another weapon.
Well, I think the scary thing would be is if they got Love.
I think the Titans might have something to say about that. Who knows?
Yeah, and it'd be. I would think that the Cowboys would probably take that swing too if they got to 12.
I can never tell what they're going to do at running back. That's a very dangerous lane to get into.
Well, they took Zeke at 4 a few years ago. So Love at 12 wouldn't be the craziest thing.
Appreciate y'all for rolling through. Texans signed Ed Ingram. They signed Sheldon Rankins, re-signed, and then they signed, forgive me for forgetting the guy who Aaron put the
Nope, we're staying here so you remember his name.
There's a QUE in it.
There's a K in it.
There's a K in it. Dominique.
Mm-hmm.
Dominique Taylor. No, that's Daryl Taylor. I'm mixing up my Bears. Dominique Walker.
Nope.
Dominique. I know he had a sack and a half against D'Amico in his debut in 2022. Dominique Robinson.
Yeah, there it is.
There you go. All right. Appreciate y'all for rolling through. Be sure to subscribe. By the way, anyone who covers the Texans that tries to go all in on Dominique Robinson, you're a fraud. I haven't seen anyone do it yet. Appreciate y'all for rolling through.
I don't know. Pro day numbers are pretty close.
Hey.
Hey, bro. Alpha Aaron here.
Subscribe, like, right along. Always remember, when it comes to this Texan stuff, we're all in it together. See y'all tomorrow. It's the most magical time of the year. See y'all Friday at Spanky's. I already got my pizza order ready. I'm going in on Friday. Appreciate y'all for rolling through. Always remember, when it comes to this Texan stuff, we're all in it together.
Ego sleep good. Be good. Talk Texans again soon, like 6 o'clock at the Collective.
Hey, he had 5 touchdowns. Watch the game, moron. Watch the game, moron. Come on.
Yeah.